Welcome back, it's me, Lou. I'm here for another action figure unboxing and review, and today the spotlight is on this. We have Masters of the Universe Revelation Moss Man. So this is part of Mattel's Masterverse line. As you can see here, 30 points of articulation, and it's Moss Man as he's seen in the new Netflix animated series. Alright, so we have Moss Man here. And I'm kind of excited about this figure, mostly because it looks like he's using all original parts. It's not like the other Revelation figures, like for example, like He-Man and Skeletor and Man-at-Arms, where they share a lot of the same like body parts. Like, you know, they kind of share the same limbs, the same arms. Some of the figures share the same boots. In the case of Moss Man, it looks like he's entirely a unique sculpt all around, just because of the nature of the character. So, yeah, we're going to take a look at this. I'm excited for this figure. As a child in the 80s, I never had the original Moss Man figure. It was a figure that I always wanted, but I just never got it. And if you remember, the original figure was really cool. It was kind of flocked, so it almost had the appearance like he had like almost like actual moss on him. And that was something that kind of carried over throughout the different iterations of the figure. Like I know that in the 2000X line, there's a Moss Man figure, and I think it's kind of pricey because it's hard to come by. And I want to say that figure is just pretty much a reused Beast Man, but it's flocked. And that looks really cool. That's something that's on my radar. But like I said, that 2000X Moss Man, I think it might have been an exclusive, and it's hard to come by, so it's a little bit pricey. I believe there was also a Classics Moss Man that was also flocked, and that looked pretty neat. So this figure, I'm excited about the fact that we're getting a Moss Man character. The only thing that's slightly disappointing for me is that it's not flocked. You know, all the kind of like foliage and vegetation details on him is just sculpted on the figure itself. It's not like it's, you know, like a flocked material where you can actually feel it and it actually looks like real moss. This looks more in line with like a normal action figure, which I don't have problems with because it looks great. You know, the detail and the sculpting looks amazing. But there is a part of me, my inner child, that kind of wishes this was much like the old figure where it was flocked and it actually looked like real moss on them. But I could kind of look past that, and, you know, today we're just going to really dive into this guy and see what it's all about. On the side of the box, nice illustration, a Moss Man. On the back, really impressive drawing here. Looks like we have Skeletor and Beast Man looming in the background. The one thing I do love about the Revelation line, and I've said this before, is that I love the fact that when you flip the box over, you know, they give us a nice meaty illustration, and they provide like a very, you know, in-depth look at the character right here. You know, there's so many action figures right now when you buy them, especially if you're just an action figure collector, because I know there are a lot of collectors out there that, you know, they might be into Masters of the Universe, but they might not be up to date with, you know, Revelation, or there's some people that just collect action figures in general, and they might not have any idea on the background information of that universe or of those characters. So I appreciate that Mattel takes the time out and they provide all this nice copy in like a short bio for us to read. And I think that's something more toy companies need to do. So it says here, Moss Man, the heroic spy and master of camouflage. Once believed to be nothing more than a legend, the mythical Preternian plant creature Moss Man is wise beyond his million years. His powers of great strength, plant control, and shapeshifting into any form of plant life make him an invaluable ally to He-Man in the fight against Skeletor. As a protector of Castle Grayskull's secrets, Moss Man's sagely advice helps guide his friend He-Man to the right path. And also in this line, this was the first wave. In the Revelation line, we got He-Man, Moss Man, which we're looking at. We got Skeletor and Evil Lyn. So I jumped into the Revelation line kind of late to the party. When the line was first released some months back, the only figure I really picked up was this Evil Lyn. And that's primarily because I was very fond of the character in Revelation. And I just needed a larger scale Evil Lyn figure since I didn't have one in my 2000X line. But if you've been watching my videos, I've been gradually building up my Revelations toy line. You know, so The line's pretty doable right now since they're only about like 2 waves in. So if you're looking into starting a Revelation collection, now is the perfect time. You know, both waves are readily available at the stores. Albeit the second wave, like with Man-at-Armors, might be harder to find. And I think the newest wave with like Fisto and Scareglow, and what's the other one? I think Stinkor. I think Big Bad Toy Store just got those in stock. And today's December 15th, 2021. So yeah, I believe Wave 3 is already in stock in some of the online retailers. And Waves 1 and 2 you should be able to find in your stores. So let's get this guy out and get started. All right, so one thing that that's noticeably different than the other figures is that besides having a plastic tray, this one seems to have an overlay on top. So this is an additional piece. The other figures, I believe, don't have this added protection, and I think that's more so just to keep all these different accessories in place. So accessory-wise, right off the bat, very impressive. I want to say I think he might have, he has the same amount of accessories as some of the other figures, but you know, it's just on a different level because, like, for example, this vegetative hand with the you know, the plant growth and tendrils, this thing is huge. And the multiple hands here, you know, they're very unique sculpts. These aren't hands you can use on other figures. Because they're sculpted specifically for Mossman, and the detail on these is just beautiful. Look at that, really nice sculpting. So you're actually getting 2 extra pairs of hands with this guy, much like some of the other figures. Like I believe Man-at-Arms has 2 extra pairs of hands. For this one, we're getting 2 splayed out hands like this. Really cool. So if he's like, you know, in attack position, he wants to like gouge someone's eyes out, he has these hands. More additional hands right here. All right, so these look. All right, so I'm looking at his hands right now, and he has these splayed out hands. These hands are slightly open, and then these hands are more of like the gripping hands for like holding items. So in some weird ways, although they did give us extra hands, I would have preferred it if these hands here were closed fists, because he already has the gripping hands here, the C-grip hands. He has the splayed out fingers over here. And then these fingers, they're slightly splayed out, so it seems kind of redundant. So even though the sculpting on these are absolutely beautiful, I would have preferred it if they just gave us closed fists. So I don't understand the reasoning behind that, but they are really, really nice. And they're also articulated. You can see here, there's a hinge, so it allows for some movement. Yeah, these are articulated also. Yeah, so weird decision on the hands. I don't understand why they're like that. Alright, the best thing about this figure so far, as opposed to some of the other figures in the Revelation line, is that this guy does not have any of those plastic ties holding him to the tray. You can easily just pop him out, and I like that. Alright, so we have Mossman here. Let's get him in a neutral pose so we can talk about some of the details and the sculpting. Alright, just to warn you in advance, seems like some of his joints are really tight. And if you've watched some of my other videos, like Man-at-Arms and Tila, I kind of ran into some quality control issues regarding that. Now this guy's arm here, I'm trying to roll it down so it's at his side, like this. But if you look here, there's like excess plastic right there, right there at the tip, and it's hitting the side of his chest, and it's not allowing for it to close in all the way. So already we're kind of starting off on the wrong foot. I don't want to do this, but let's see if I can trim some of that excess plastic off so it can roll all the way down. I don't, unless that's as far as it'll go. All right, so yeah, I'm kind of annoyed right now. I don't know. Shoot, this isn't moving. All right, so I don't know what it is with some of these figures, but for the socket joint here, I've had this issue on Man at Arms. It's super tight that it doesn't allow it to roll in. Like here, it can roll down. You move it this way, it doesn't want to roll in. So I think it's the conflict is with the sculpt here, because I think once the arm is up towards this position, it's not allowed to move inward, which is bothersome. But when its arms turn down, it rolls in no problem. So I don't know what the issue is. And it's like that on this side too, but it's a little bit more extreme, because when it's in this position, it doesn't want to roll down that much. That's as far as I could get it. And when it's raised higher, it doesn't want to budge at all. So I don't know what the deal is with that. Very, very disappointed in that. It's like they're giving us the articulate. It might just be my figure, but for me, it's kind of like if they're giving me that articulation, I want that range of motion. But it's like either hitting something on the inside, or just by the nature of the sculpt here, you know, pieces they're like fighting each other. There's not enough gap or slack here for it to allow for movement. And if you look, you know, every time it's been moved, it's rubbing paint off of here. So I'm guessing it's just the sculpt, there's not enough clearance. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. But it's such a shame, because this is a wonderful detailed figure. The sculpting on this is top notch. And even though the figure is not flocked like the original toy, what it does have in terms of its sculpting and detail make up for that. Like I can already tell you right now, for me, if I had to rate this figure just on the sculpting and detail alone, it's an easy 9 to a 10. Without a doubt. The amount of detail here in sculpting is amazing. The paint application's alright. It looks like there might be some highlighting in here, but for me, you know, it would have been great if they went that extra distance and gave us a nice wash, like a nice dark ink wash over like all this vegetation, so it could like seep into all the cracks and really bring all that detail, make it pop out. So yeah, I'm very impressed right now, but this articulation's bothering me. It's like it makes no sense why. I can move the arms in certain positions like here, but the minute I roll it up, I can't get it to fold in. So very, very disappointed in that. I don't get it. It's like it locks into place or something. Now, if you have Mossman and you're not running into these issues, just leave a comment down below. Or if you're having similar issues, leave a comment also, because I want to know if it's only my toy that's having that problem, or if this is a problem across the board. So looking past articulation, I mean, the sculpting, I can't say enough good things about it. Wonderful, wonderful figure. The front and the back. You know, they took the time out. He's very asymmetrical, so the left half and the right half don't necessarily match. You know, as you can see here, like on one arm, he's growing a leaf out of his shoulder, whereas the other one, no. On one leg, you can kind of see his tree roots rising up, where on the one side, it's just plain like moss and vegetation. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful sculpt. I love the head a lot. Now, there's part of me that thinks this head would look awesome repainted and put on Beastman, because there's something about this face that looks very Beastman-like. I'm not sure if it's the beard and the ears, but it's sculpted in such a way that it doesn't necessarily look like vegetation outside, like the one or two roots at the top. But if you repainted this red and maybe with some orange in it, this would be a spot-on head for Beastman, especially if you want a more classic-looking Beastman, not the Beastman with like the braided beard that we got in the Revelation figure. So this is a great-looking head. I would love to get another Beastman figure, get another one of these, and just do a head swap and repaint it, because this is a really nice sculpt. Okay, so let's take a look at this thing here. I'm not sure if this is specific to his left or right side. I want to say this might be his right hand. Let's see if this comes off. All right, that popped off pretty easy. And let's see how this looks. This looks great, but I can tell you right off the bat, there's going to be weight issues. So unless you have this figure maybe like propped up on a figure stand, no, I take it back. It does hold pretty well. But you kind of have to find that balance point. But I think for the most part, if you're just displaying this on your shelf and you really want this hand, chances are you're probably going to have to use a stand. And I wouldn't doubt it if, like, over time, depending on how you pose this guy, if it just drags down. Like, I don't think a figure could hold this pose for, like, a long extended period of time without this eventually just starting to droop downward. But it's a great effect. You know, it really kind of displays Mossman's power. And it looks awesome. It looks great. Now, I don't want to spoil the cartoon Revelation for anyone, but I was disappointed in Mossman's very limited screen time. But it's a wonderful figure. This is great. Articulation-wise, his head rotates. It doesn't really look down all that much. As you can see here, his beard just kind of hits his bottom of his neck. Looking up, can't really look up either. He just pretty much just turns left and right. He has a cut below his chest line. Allowing for some movement. Not a whole lot. Waist swivel. His arms can rotate. Bicep cut. Double pinned elbows, but the pins are hidden. Wrist articulation. And it's like I said, my shoulders are kind of problematic. For this guy, on this side, his arm could go up and down. But once you get to this position, it locks in and it won't go out again. So I have to go out like this, rotate it like this. But then even though it's articulated here, it doesn't want to roll in. So I don't know what the problem is with that. This side is a similar problem. It could go out, but as you can see, it can't roll in. And there's paint scuff marks right there because the paint's been rubbing off. So I'm assuming that it's just too tight of a fit. And the arm does not want to roll down all that much on this side. Very disappointed in that. Leg-wise, he could kick forward, but this is kind of a dense plastic, so there's not a whole lot of give. He could kick outward. Thigh cut allows for thigh swivel, double jointed knees, hidden pins. He has articulation at the feet, at the ankles. His toes are splayed out, which is nice. It gives him much more of a base to stand on, especially if you're using this. Yeah, so overall, great figure. Disappointed in the articulation on the shoulders. If you don't have any of these problems, or even if you do, just comment down below, because I'm really curious if this is something that's just very, specific to me in this figure, or do I have to actually go out and get a new toy that actually works properly? But it's disappointing for me. It's like, it's such a wonderful toy, but it's so bothersome that I can't get it to simply just close his arms in. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to do that. Like, it makes no sense that he could rotate his arm down in this position, but the minute it goes up towards his chest, I can't pull it back out unless I start from here. And then once it's out there, I can't roll it back in. It doesn't make any sense. This one, disappointed that the paint rubs off, and I can't roll this arm inward either. And rolling down, it only goes down so much. So yeah, I don't know. The chest articulation, disappointing also. It's there, but it allows for some movement, like some tilt left and right, but it's not really going to provide any swivel, which is disappointing. It doesn't provide much of a crunch, nor arching back. So it almost seems like this is pointless. So I'm very conflicted here. I love the sculpting and the detail. Like, I'm a big fan of this excellent craftsmanship and this really well done figures, which this guy does. But for me, it comes up pretty short on the articulation here. You know, if the arms were perfectly fine, I would easily give this figure a 9.5 to a 10. That's how much I love this figure, even without the flocking like the original one had. All right, so is this something you need in your collection? I'm gonna say yes. Mossman, he's an iconic OG character, especially with his old school gimmick. This one is without that gimmick. He doesn't have the flocking like the original toy has. But I think in terms of the aesthetic of this character, the amount of work and detail that went involved with him, I think it's a very special action figure in this line. It just comes up short for me. You know, if the articulation was working, it'd be a perfect figure. So either way, I do recommend it. Like I said, the Revelation line is very doable right now. There's only like 2 waves, or I think 3 waves right now, so it's easy to get the entire collection. He's a very colorful character, a very unique sculpt. Yeah, it's great. I'm glad I purchased it, but disappointed in the articulation. Alright, so let's wrap this video up. Once again, my name is Lou. Thank you so much for checking out this video. If you are new to my channel, welcome. If you are a returning subscriber or viewer, thank you so much for your continued likes, comments, and support. I greatly appreciate it. So, until the next video, be safe, take care of yourself, buy lots of toys, and most importantly, be happy. And I will talk to you at the next one. All right, later.